Stop everything. Focus completely on what I am about to tell you. 72 hours ago, something happened. An event unfolded right before you, within you, around you. You were so exhausted, so overwhelmed, so utterly depleted that you didn't have the mental bandwidth to recognize it for what it was. It was a test. Not a minor quiz, not a pop examination. It was the final evaluation, the last, definitive assessment that determines whether a soul is ready to carry genuine spiritual authority or whether it must return to the preparatory phases for further refinement. And here is the truth you need to anchor your spirit to. You passed. Not by the skin of your teeth, not by a narrow margin or a grader's mercy. You passed with such distinction, with such an undeniable, luminous demonstration of transformed character that the spiritual realms had to immediately convene what ancient texts in their hushed and reverent tones call the Council of Elevation. Tonight, at the precise moment of 3:33 a.m., something will occur in dimensions invisible to your physical sight, but your soul will feel it with absolute resonating certainty. Heaven is going to officially commission you. Not symbolically, not metaphorically, actually, literally. In the unseen realms where the architecture of reality is maintained and where authentic spiritual authority is granted, your name is being called forth. You are about to receive clearance to operate at a level you have been training for across the entire span of your life. A training conducted in the silent classrooms of hardship, the dark libraries of loneliness, and the fierce gymnasiums of repeated resistance. You trained without ever consciously knowing the syllabus. Now, before your mind leaps to conclusions, before you imagine this celestial promotion means a sudden, smooth path of ease, let me halt that trajectory right here. What happens tonight is not a reward for good behavior. It is not a spiritual gold star for accumulated suffering. It is a recognition, a sober, majestic recognition that you can finally be trusted with greater responsibility. And greater responsibility, by the immutable laws of growth, always arrives hand in hand with greater challenge. But here is the profound difference that begins at 3:33 a.m. After tonight, you will meet those challenges with access to spiritual resources you did not previously possess, wisdom that downloads into your consciousness instantly like a remembered truth, discernment that operates as a flawless, automatic sense, a peace that remains unshakable, not because storms cease, but because your roots now tap into a deeper aquifer. An authority that no longer needs to announce itself, to argue for itself, to prove itself. It simply is. That is what occurs when heaven commissions a soul. Not the granting of comfort, but the infusion of capacity. Not the promise of ease, but the bedrock of empowerment. Not an invitation to rest, but a declaration of readiness.
Let me illuminate for you the nature of that test 3 days ago. You must understand what you actually navigated and overcame in that window between roughly 4 in the afternoon and 8 at night. Something transpired that pushed you past what you believed was your breaking point. Perhaps it was a conversation that unraveled into misunderstanding and hurt. Maybe it was a situation that with surgical precision triggered every old wound you were convinced you had healed, laying them bare once more. It could have been a moment of such profound, isolating loneliness that tears wouldn't even come. You simply sat in a numb, hollowed-out silence. Maybe it was a betrayal so unexpected, so laterally shocking that your cognitive faculties short-circuited, unable to process the dissonance. Or perhaps it was an exhaustion so total, so bone deep, that you literally had no energy left for thought. You could only react from a place of pure, unvarnished instinct. Whatever its unique form for you, it transported you to a raw frontier of your being. You were operating on autopilot. You were too tired to perform, too broken to pretend, too depleted to calculate the strategically right response. You were simply being, without the energy to be anything other than what you truly are at your absolute core. And in that moment, when no earthly eyes were watching, when no human accountability would have ever known if you chose differently, when you held in your hands every justification the world could offer to respond with bitterness, with petty revenge, with selfishness, with cruelty, or with compromise, you did not. Your automatic response, the one that rose from your deepest essence when you were too exhausted to filter it, was integrity. Maybe someone verbally attacked you, and your instinct wasn't to attack back, but to absorb the blow in a silence that held more power than any retort. Maybe you had access to information that could have benefited you at someone else's clear expense, and you found you simply could not use it. Maybe you were handed a perfect opportunity to expose someone who had hurt you, and a quiet, firm no rose from within your spirit. Maybe you faced a stark choice between your own comfort and another's well-being, and without a moment's conscious deliberation, you chose their well-being. Maybe you were alone with a potent temptation in a scenario where no one would have ever known, and you turned and walked away anyway. The specific details of the situation are irrelevant. What matters, what echoes through the halls of heaven, is this: your goodness is no longer merely something you do, it is something you are. Your integrity is no longer a conscious choice you make when you have the energy to be your best self. It has become your default setting, your automatic operating system, the fundamental you revealed when all else is stripped away. And that, chosen one, is precisely what the heavens have been waiting to witness. Because here is a truth they often neglect to teach in formal religious settings. The spiritual realm is profoundly unconcerned with your theological pedigree. It cares little for how many scriptures you have memorized, how many spiritual texts line your shelves, or how many cumulative hours you have logged in prayer or meditation. It is focused on one essential, piercing question. Who are you when you don't have the energy to be anyone other than who you truly are? Who are you when the social masks fall off not by choice, but because you are too fatigued to hold them up? Who are you in the absolute privacy of your spirit when no witness exists and no record will be kept of your choice? That is the only question that ultimately matters, because that is the sole litmus test that reveals whether your transformation is authentic and permanent or merely a performance of temporary discipline. 72 hours ago, in your moment of complete exhaustion, you answered that question. Your answer was so clear, so undeniable, so luminously confirmed that the observation decks in the spiritual realm, those stations where assigned guardians monitor human development and maturity, erupted, not in applause, for that is a human contrivance, but in what can only be described as a wave of recognition, the kind of recognition that happens when a masterpiece is finally unveiled, when a long-held potential crystallizes into reality, when arduous preparation blossoms into undeniable readiness, when training transcends into mastery. Now, allow me to explain what will transpire at 3:33 this morning and why this specific temporal coordinate holds significance. First, understand that time within the spiritual realm doesn't function as a linear constant in the way physical reality experiences it. Yet there are certain moments, thin places in the fabric between dimensions, where the veil becomes permeable, where spiritual activity can penetrate the physical with less interference, where downloads of grace and authority can be transmitted with heightened clarity. The hour between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. is one such moment. Here is why. During this nocturnal window, collective human consciousness is typically at its lowest ebb of activity. Most of humanity is submerged in the deep, dreamless waves of sleep. The constant static of collective mental chatter, the psychic noise that normally fills the atmosphere, is hushed. In that profound quiet, that cosmic stillness, the spiritual realm can operate with unparalleled precision. But 333 specifically carries an added weight in sacred numerology, which is not superstition, but the recognition of enduring patterns woven throughout wisdom traditions. The number 3 universally represents divine completeness, wholeness, and perfection. Father, Son, Spirit, mind, body, soul, birth, life, death, past, present, future. It is the number of a full cycle. When this number is tripled, 333, it signals a completion upon a completion upon a completion, a cycle ending, a phase graduating, a level being definitively cleared. It is a numeric signature of totality. Throughout spiritual history, major transitions are often marked by this pattern. 3 days in a tomb, 3 days in the belly of a great fish, a 3-day journey towards liberation. Tonight, at 3:33, your pattern completes. Here is what will actually occur. Your soul, while your conscious mind and physical body are at rest, will be brought before what ancient texts reverently term the court of heaven. Not in a physical sense, your body will remain in your bed, but dimensionally, spiritually, the core of who you are will stand in that sovereign space where true spiritual authority is conferred. In that space, 3 specific authorizations will be granted to you. These are not blanket permissions for you to use as you please. They are spiritual capacities, innate abilities that activate in harmony with your proven character. This is why the test had to come first. The universe does not entrust potent instruments to those who might misuse them. Power is only given to those who have demonstrated they will not abuse it. Authorization 1, accelerated wisdom. This is the capacity to understand situations, people, and underlying dynamics at a level that bypasses slow, linear intellectual analysis. You will begin to know things you have no logical, earthly reason to know. You will sense the subtext beneath conversations, feel dissonance in an environment before you can articulate why, and understand the true motives of others without them uttering a word. It will feel so organic that you may not even recognize it as supernatural. You will simply know, and later, when events prove you right, you will wonder at the source of that knowing. That quiet wonder is how you will recognize this authorization is active. Authorization 2, unshakable peace. This is not happiness. Happiness is contingent, rising and falling with circumstances. This is a state of being, independent of external storms. You will walk through gales of chaos and feel a profound inner calm. You will face direct attacks and feel an unassailable steadiness. You will encounter pandemonium and feel centered. This is not because you become numb or unaffected. It is because you are rooted in a foundation far deeper than any shifting circumstances. People will notice. They will ask you, how are you so calm? And you will have no technique or mantra to offer them that satisfies, because this peace doesn't come from a practice you do. It emanates from who you have become. It is the peace of one who has passed through so much refining fire that the mere heat of a new flame no longer triggers panic. Third, spiritual authority. This is the most subtle and potent authorization, difficult to explain in earthly terms. It is not about control, dominance, or making others bow to your will. It is about your very presence carrying a tangible spiritual weight. When you speak, your words will carry a resonance that compels genuine listening. Your silence will be respected as powerful, not empty. The boundaries you set will hold with a new firmness. Decisions you make will see circumstances align to support them. This happens not because you are forcing outcomes, but because you have become a person the universe can trust with that level of influence. This authorization is tested stringently because, in wrong hands, it is dangerous. But in hands purified by suffering and proven in testing, your hands, it becomes a tool solely for blessing, for liberation, for authentic elevation. These three authorizations do not arrive with a blinking neon sign or an instruction manual. They simply activate, integrating into the fabric of your being. You will know they are active by three distinct signs beginning tomorrow. Sign 1, a mental clarity that feels almost eerie. You will awaken with a sharpness of mind you may not have felt in years, if ever. The fog that has clouded your thoughts, the confusion that muddied your decisions, the overwhelm that made every choice feel complicated, it will be gone. Not just diminished, but gone. In its place will be a lucidity so profound you will see to the heart of matters instantly. Problems that once took weeks to untangle, you will understand in minutes. Decisions that once caused paralysis, you will make with quiet confidence. Not because you suddenly possess all knowledge, but because you can instantly discern what is essential from what is merely noise. Sign 2, an emotional stability that surprises you. You will notice that triggers which once sent you into tailspins now land with a dull thud. People who drained your energy will find they cannot reach you on that same frequency. Situations that once overwhelmed will feel manageable. This is not emotional suppression or numbness, it is a recalibration. You have built, through relentless pressure, an emotional musculature most never develop. You can feel deeply, joy, grief, compassion, without being controlled by those feelings. You can care profoundly without being consumed. You can love expansively without losing yourself. This stability will be tested. People, often unconsciously, will try to provoke the old reactions from you. When you respond with calm where chaos was expected, it will create confusion. Some will respect it, others will feel threatened by it. Their reaction will help you discern who belongs in your unfolding chapter. Sign 3, synchronicities too perfect to be random. Starting tomorrow or in the days immediately following, you will notice life beginning to coordinate in your favor in ways that defy coincidence. You will need a resource and it will appear. You will think of a person and they will contact you. A question will linger in your mind and the answer will arrive through an unexpected conversation or a randomly opened book. Obstacles will arise and the exact tool or insight needed to overcome them will present itself. This is not mere manifestation or law of attraction. This is what happens when you graduate to a new spiritual level. The universe begins to orchestrate reality around you differently because you have proven you can be trusted to steward such flow without corruption. If, as you read this, a deep part of you is nodding in recognition, if you sense that a subtle but monumental shift did occur within you 72 hours ago, even if you couldn't name it, then let this serve as your confirmation. Now, I must warn you of the single most subtle, insidious force that can sabotage everything you have just earned: spiritual pride. When you wake tomorrow to that clarity, that stability, those synchronicities, a temptation will whisper. It will sound like this: I finally made it. I am better than those still struggling. I am special. I am chosen. I am above the mundane battles. If you entertain that thought, If you let that pride take root, you will initiate a gradual loss of all you have received. The clarity will fog, the stability will crack, the synchronicities will cease. The universe only entrusts true power to those who remain grounded in humility. Therefore, when that prideful whisper comes, you must remember. Remember who you were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, the version of you that was lost, broken, desperate. Remember every person who showed you grace you did not deserve, patience you had not earned, belief when you offered none in yourself. Let that memory be the anchor of your genuine humility. Not a false humility that denies your power, but a profound humility that knows the immense cost at which that power was obtained. A cost that breeds compassion, not contempt for others still paying their own. The crown you receive tonight is not a trophy for your ego, it is a tool for your assignment. It is not a declaration that you are better than others, but a recognition that you can be trusted with more. And such trust always demands humility. Let me be unequivocal. The only one who can revoke this crown after it is given is you. And you can do so through one means, a deliberate, conscious, calculated betrayal of your own integrity for personal gain, after you know better. Not through a moment of weakness, a stumble, or an imperfect day, but through a sustained choice to misuse your spiritual authority, to manipulate, to control, to wield your peace as a weapon, to turn blessings into tools for domination. That is when the crown is relinquished, not as punitive wrath, but as a protective act. A corrupted soul with spiritual authority is a danger to itself and all around it. This is why your test was so rigorous. The universe needed proof that even at your worst, your weakest, your most vulnerable, your default setting remained integrity. You proved it. Tonight, heaven receives that proof and acts upon it. Your commissioning at this exact moment in history is not random. Humanity is entering a period of unprecedented upheaval and systemic shaking. The world does not need more theorists or talking heads. It needs embodied proof. It needs living testimonies of souls who can remain steady, loving, and integral while everything crumbles. You are that proof. Your assignment is not to have all the answers or to save everyone. It is to be a living sanctuary of peace, to be a walking example that transformation is possible, that character can be forged in fire, that light can emerge from profound darkness. When people encounter your stability in their storm, they will be drawn to the source of it, and your life will point the way. So tonight, at 3:33, receive what is given with open hands and a humble heart. Tomorrow, and in all the days that follow, wield your new capacities with wisdom. Use them to bless, to build, to heal, and to love. Protect your crown not with a perfection you cannot sustain, but with a faithful commitment to the trajectory of growth. Your loneliness was not abandonment, it was assessment. Your exhaustion was not punishment, it was preparation. Your breaking was not destruction, it was transformation. And tonight, heaven confirms what you have already demonstrated to the depths of your being. You are ready.